So today I went a little crazy. I bought something that's definitely out of left field for myself. We're going to be checking out my, at least new to me, Ibanez FTM33. So first we should talk about the neck on this absolute monster. So it actually is surprisingly comfortable for how big it is. I mean, it's an 8-string. And I think the way that they were able to achieve this is because this is actually a 9-piece neck. It's maple and walnut, and also has 2 titanium rods running down it. So it is incredibly stable. And that stability meant that they didn't have to have a lot more material on the back of it. You didn't need a big, huge neck. It's not like you're playing a 2x4 or a surfboard. They were able to get this very thin, but still have some roundness so it contours your hand well. This is a 27-inch scale length, and you do want a little bit longer of a scale length, especially for that low 8 string. I currently have this sitting in F, and the reason that you want that extra, length is because that's going to help you intonate it better with the lower tunings. Now, there are other guitars that go much, longer than this, but I think 27 is about my limit. This still feels comfortable with hitting notes, finding my way across the fretboard, and doing stretches and chords, whereas some other stuff and some baritones I've played that are longer have been a little bit less comfortable. Now, this neck is a neck through body, so it runs through essentially the whole body of the thing. You can kind of see that here, and then there are 2 glued ash wings on this thing. So you can actually really clearly, if I can get it to come up on camera, you can kind of see where the wings start and the neck is for this guy. That's cool. It gives a lot of, stability to this thing. It's not bolted on or anything, and it's just one big resonant hunk of wood that this thing is made out of with some wings on each side. It is 22 frets. They are jumbo frets. Unfortunately, they are not stainless steel, but they feel great. And then this has a rosewood fingerboard, as you can see here. Now, the rosewood's fine. It looks fine, but I prefer ebony. I think this thing being totally blacked out would be great. Plus, it just feels really good. But honestly, a small miss for this, especially with how good it plays. Now, you'll notice that this does have a locking nut. And then you'll also notice that this has an edge bridge down here, if you can kind of see that. Now, it's not a floating trem. There's no tremolo on this. There's no springs like I showed before with the back. There's no back cavity or anything for this. This is purely to have a really nice, like, kind of locking system, but without all the hassle of a trem system. So the tuning is really stable on this thing. And of course, you have the fine tuning machines down below, but you don't have to deal with setting up the spring tension and getting everything to sit right. So it has all the advantages that you'd want out of a good trem system like the Edge system without having all of the terrible stuff that comes with having a trem. Also feels very, very smooth like a good trem does on the hand. You kind of just don't even realize it's there after you start playing. I think they've done this before with some other artists, but definitely a good move here. Now, the pickups in this thing, this does have a set of Lundgren M8s in it. And I've talked about the M series from Lundgren before. I've had them on the channel a bunch, the 6. I've owned a couple of the 7s. I have them currently, or at least a bridge pickup in a Schecter 7-string that I have. I absolutely love those pickups. They're fantastic. They just work. They're tight without being thin. They're cutting without being harsh. They have this mid-range that's super present and adds a lot of pick attack and clarity to the sound and pushes what you want for metal and high gain tones and gent and whatever else. But it's not over the top. It's not nasal. It actually has this nice creamy quality. A lot of other great adjectives, and these 8-string versions are no exception. They're just as good as the other ones, which is why Meshuggah used them, and they're kind of synonymous with Meshuggah at this point. Finally, there is this beautiful black open pore finish. Let me see if I can get it to come up. You can see it more on the back. You probably saw it a bit earlier. There you go. Yeah. See how you can see all of the open pores and everything of the wood, and you can actually feel that too. Like all of that has a nice texture. It's just tactilely nice, but I also think it looks very good. It's just such a classy, cool look that looks metal and everything like that, like almost like just like an old cool piece of furniture, almost like this thing might have even been in a fire, which is cool. And then it does have a mirrored pickguard, which I thought would be a nightmare to get on camera, but actually wasn't so bad, and it looks cool on the guitar. So that's enough about all the features. For what I was using for the in mix and what we're going to be hearing in the out of mix, I had this guitar plugged into my Lischler and Prometheus on the vintage channel for all the gain tones. I like it. That's just a little bit extra hairy and aggressive. And of course, that cut knob built in was great for this thing just going straight in and not needing any kind of boost. And then we're going to be hearing that on the same channel in the out of mix. And then I'll play around with the clean channel on this a bit with some reverb from a Strymon reverb. I have a Blue Sky. It's just better to hear clean tones with some reverb instead of dry. And then all of that is going to be running into my Two Notes Captor X, which does have a DV77 and VM1265 IR blend that I've done personally. Now, really quick before we get to the out of mix, I am a Sweetwater affiliate. I am going to have a link down below to this guitar, the other Meshuggah signature that they have on there, and any other cool just guitars. I will have a link up that I always have down below. Please go buy yourself something nice and use that link. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but would really help me out in the channel. So if you like what I'm doing, use that link. But anyway, let's check out the tones. So the guitar is sick. It plays fantastic. Like I said before, it feels absolutely fantastic in my hands, which I was surprised by, but then the more I thought about it, realized I probably shouldn't be. I mean, Ibanez pioneered extended range instruments for electric guitar. They were pretty much the only place you could get them for forever. I mean, they're still synonymous with guys like Steve Vai and Korn, who used 7 strings in rock and metal for the first time a long time ago. And honestly, it's just a fantastic guitar. I mean, they've done it again with 8s. It's not surprising at all that this 8-string is as good as it is when they've been doing the extended range for so long. But I wanted to give 8s another try. I had bought a Harley Benton years ago. It was an 8-string fan fret, and the neck was just too big, and it didn't play right for me. And even though I fixed it up, it still wasn't, as good as I wanted it to be. And I came across this for a really, really good deal. And so I just decided to offload a couple of things I wasn't using and pick this up, and I'm glad I did. While it's not going to be my main instrument by any stretch of the imagination, guys like Isan and Matt Heafy, they're able to make cool blackened music with 8-string guitars and proggy stuff. So it's going to be cool to have something really out of my wheelhouse that's going to be different, that forces me to play and write differently. And I think it's going to be cool on the channel too, because when I'm doing stuff like overdrive demos, like distortion demos, amp demos, and stuff like that, I can start showing the out of mix. Here's what it sounds like on a 6-string. Here's what it sounds like on a 7-string. Here's what it sounds like on an 8-string. That way, a wider audience can hear how this works with a piece of gear instead of just hearing one limited guitar. I can show it with a bunch of other things. So something might not work for one kind of play style, but might work for another. And I think this will help showcase that. But anyway, I would be interested to know your thoughts. I will have links down below, like I said, to my IR and to my Sweetwater account. And for this guitar, please leave those comments down below of what you thought of the guitar, the music, if you're stoked to see this in the future, if you've owned one of these or are a fan of Meshuggah, whatever. But thanks for watching. Stay metal.